We're now about to go live in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now live.
89.5 WSKB.
Campus of Westfield State University. This is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley. With convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut, visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
Good morning, Westfield, Mass. 6:03 a.m. It is Thursday, April 5th, 2018. A nasty 28 degrees outside your door. The wind chill makes it feel like it's below 20. So just when you thought it was April, showers bring May flowers, nice springtime weather, that is not the case over the course of the next several days, quite frankly.
Just when you thought it was safe to go back outside?
Oh, my God. The wind actually at one point woke me up last night. It was howling. It was unbelievable. Very gusty winds. Luckily, I did a quick check this morning. I don't think there were any down power lines or trees in our area. No. But in several of the surrounding towns there were. So
branches down on my driveway, though.
Yes. But luckily, as far as what I could tell, about an hour ago, shortly after 5 when I was looking into it, there's nothing going on in Westfield as far as power outages, although I did have a brief power snap at my house last night, but it was very quick. So today, cold and windy, only getting up to 42 degrees today. It will feel colder than that due to the wind. That four-letter word we're not supposed to say, Pete, begins with an S, ends in a W.
We might see a little bit of it,
in the middle.
Yes.
They're talking about that for tomorrow.
Yep.
So we are not out of the woods yet. And then the weekend, Saturday, and all the nights for the foreseeable future are either at freezing or below.
Right.
So the high temperatures really, tomorrow's going to be snowy, cloudy, wet, and then you get into the weekend. Saturday is cloudy and 41. Sunday 43, Monday 47, more wet snow type stuff on Tuesday 44 degrees, Wednesday 49, and it looks like maybe the end of next week we might break out of it. It looks like it might be up into the 50s at this point next Thursday, so April 12th. So we got an interesting batch of weather. I'm going to jump ahead because I usually save this for later in the show. You're probably going to want to run out and get some milk and bread because we have a tropical cyclone on the way. It is currently in the South Pacific Ocean, 9,391 miles from Westfield. So just be careful of that. So I always like to give the tropical cyclone and hurricane warnings on the planet Earth to our listeners. So that's 6:05 a.m. as far as headlines go. The Southwick School Committee passed their fiscal year 2019 budget. The Westfield Planning Board had two things on the table last night. One is discussing zoning for recreational marijuana, and another one about Verizon looking to put up another cell phone tower here in Westfield. If you recall, a few weeks back, they did one and did it.
Shaker Road.
By Shaker Farms Country Club, exactly.
I know they had contacted the city about renting land up on the north side because their signals are really bad up there.
And that's where this proposed one is going. It's up on Airport Road, to be specific.
Yep, that was what they were talking about.
Yep, so that, and I can see that my reporters are working on a couple more stories. Former Westfield High School graduate Colin Dunn making a name for himself at Westfield State University as Mask Hack Player of the Week in baseball. Congratulations to him.
He's been good for a couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. Good ball player.
Yep.
And then it's, unfortunately we had a little bit of the snow the other day, postponed some of the local sporting events, but they're all back in full swing. Playing ball and volleyball, baseball, excuse me. So Chris Putz, our sports editor, is running around. So that's what's going on at 6:06 a.m. on Thursday, April 5th. We're live at the Tigers Pride restaurant here at the Westfield Technical Academy.
You're on a proper stage now.
What do you mean?
You're on stage.
I'm on stage. I should be.
This is.
You don't need me on a stage.
This is the old stage, apparently, from the Auto Cafetorium or whatever it was the tech was here by itself.
Good God! Before they added on, right?
Yeah. Well, before they connected the two buildings.
Right. Yeah. So, but we're. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. That's all I got.
So my guest this morning is Westfield City Engineer Mark Crosati. Good morning, Mark. Thanks for coming. I'm just going to slide that a little closer.
Sorry.
To you. Hold on. Now you're good. Periodically, I like to have Mark on because there are so many things that take place in Westfield that are under the city engineering department's purview. And, road construction, sewers additions. I mean, there are just so many different things. However, I think when you were on last fall, late summer, early autumn last year, you kind of talked about how Westfield I'm talking major construction is really, we're in a lull for the moment until I think the next real major project is Western Avenue, correct?
That's correct.
And then let's start with Western Avenue. What's the status of it? When will it begin? Shovels in the ground, that sort of thing.
Well, Western Avenue is in two phases. We've got probably three, you might say, but we're talking about Western Ave Central phase, which is the University frontage, Stanley Park frontage, going from Llewellyn Drive to Lloyd's Hill. We are working to do right-of-way acquisition and to submit the sort of the bid documents, what they call the PS&E submission for the project to Mass DOT for July 1st. So it seems like we got a lot of time there, but the right-of-way, which should be going into City Council this evening, it takes some time. It's going to take at least a month and a half just to go through the process of going into City Council, 2 votes of the City Council.
And what do you mean by right-of-way?
There's not a lot of the right of way. So the property that is dedicated to traveling purposes, not the actual travel surface of the road, but the property dedicated to it. A lot of people refer to it as a tree belt. It's where your property line ends and the public right of way begins. It's pretty wide on Western Ave, but understand by state law we put sidewalks pretty close to that property line. If I put something next to your property line and then I want to go and replace it, more than likely I'm going to be stepping on your property. I'm going to have to do a little bit of fit up, dress up your grass, maybe fit up your driveway. And so we need rights to go onto your property to do that fit up. Okay, so temporary easements are necessary, what they call temporary, because they're only there for the duration of the construction project or for a limited period of time. So that's the right-of-way we're talking about for the most part for Western Avenue. And so that we do that through what's known as the eminent domain process. So we go to the City Council, we ask them to vote to actually take the interest in real estate. We appraise that, we send a check for the value of that to the property owners. Otherwise there is no compensation to property owners for the disturbance. Yeah. So it's not a lot, but it's a little bit to say,
and there are a lot of properties in this project. There are a lot of private properties.
Yes.
And again, Stanley Park is a private property.
That's
it's not
correct.
a city-owned park, which a lot of people are confused about. How does do you still have to take those steps with the university?
No, the university is a special animal. We need to go. So the city does not have rights of eminent domain against the state, and the university is a state facility.
Right.
So we have to actually get them to agree. They have to sign what's called the right of entry. They have to give us the rights to step onto their property to do that fit-up work.
And I have to imagine something like this is fairly simple to it.
There is, yeah. I mean, they do have concerns and questions, and we're working with them on that. But everything seems to be working along very well.
So between now and July 1st, you'll get all those agreements in place, the right-of-ways, and then what happens come July 1st?
So on July 1st, the city will wrap up the design, sort of hand it off as a bid document, similar to if we went out to bid on a project. You put together the bid package and the bid process starts. And so the state will then take over the bid process. They'll advertise the project. They'll go through and answer questions that come in during the bid process. And then when the bids come in, they'll evaluate the bids and they'll award a contract to presumably the low bidder, and give a notice to proceed, and then hold a pre-construction meeting. But once we hand off those bid documents, it's no longer a city project. Now it's a DOT project. It'll all be funded. The construction's funded by DOT. The oversight of the construction's funded by DOT. So we act as a liaison once that happens. And then there's that process that it takes them probably 4 to 6 months just to go through their bid process, award, and then mobilization of construction.
So the Western Ave project sounds very similar to the Route 187 project,
Yeah,
where
yeah, sure.
the city kind of did the design and then just passed it off to the state, and then the Mass DOT, Department of Transportation, then took over and did the project.
Same process. Yep.
Okay. So now why Route 187 Little River Road is a state road?
Yep.
Why is Mass DOT taking over Western Avenue? That's not a state road, right?
Well, 187 is not a state road. It is
it's
state
not?
designated, but
Oh.
it's not. It doesn't. It's not actually owned by the state.
Oh, okay.
So Route 20, only about half of it by the Westfield shops. That is state highway. But once you cross the Veterans Bridge or the Little River crossing there, it
Right.
becomes a city road in town.
Right.
And same thing, Franklin Street is Route 20. It's a city road, but once you take the bend onto Russell Road, it becomes a state highway.
Okay.
So, and I'm sorry. your
So
question was-
Western Ave. So why is Mass DOT getting involved in the Western Ave project?
Because we petitioned them to some years ago to consider a project. They're only going to do projects on what's called the National Highway System or supportive roads to the National Highway System. So they're limited in what they can apply their resources to. We apply, we sort of submit a project request. It goes through a committee. They vet it, and we have to make an argument at the time, and they have to say yes, okay, it meets their parameters, and then we take on the design, which again it takes a long period of time.
I mean, the Western Ave project has been going on probably 4 or 5 years already.
That's only the more recent phases of it, I'll tell you.
Right.
I think it started probably in '99.
Really?
Yeah.
It's funny because that brings up a very good point, and I remember when a lot of people were, had some concerns about, the new bridges going in or the Main and Broad Street reconstruction, and I remember you and I having this conversation and said, and you had mentioned, you go, that concept of those construction projects literally started decades ago.
Decades.
And you just caught me. I'm thinking, all right, Western Ave was 4 or 5 years ago. And, that's almost 20 years ago that 1999. So, a lot of people only, and I fall into that sometimes myself, as you think about what's within the relative history. But you gotta understand these things start being talked about for many years in advance.
Yeah.
So, if I recall correctly, there was the original proposal was really an access point to the university. And that was from Route 20 Russell Road down, somewhere in the Toccoa Country Club area from Route 20 to the university. Why did that, if you know, why did that road, that access point, never become a reality?
Well, let me, if I can, back up even a little bit further. So, look, we mentioned 1999, and then we mentioned we went through that process to request the Western Ave be a project at the state. So that was back in '99. We put in, so back at that time, it was the Clinton era. Federal government had experienced a surplus of funds for first time since the 50s or 60s. So they were looking, so Mass DOT actually came out and said, if you design it, we'll build it. They came out with a memo and said, there you go. City of Westfield took the opportunity. We submitted probably a dozen projects.
Wow.
And we were told, okay, thanks, but we're only going to advance 4 of them at this time, and the rest have to wait. So Western Ave was an approved project, and it was sitting on the shelf waiting then to be advanced. DOT didn't want to see it.
Let me interrupt you there for a quick second. Yep. Actually, you know what? Go ahead, because my question will fall into place later. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, sure. So then the university experiences this problem. It's got a problem with the commuter parking lot or commuters coming into the campus, this sort of peak hour rush and how to manage the traffic on the roadway. So they did. They investigated. They did some analysis. There was one option was to go through the former Toccoa Country Club down the hill, if you remember.
Yeah.
The other they came out with was to sort of skirt behind Llewellyn Drive and run down the slope there to the old Sheridan Inn area, which they own the property there. So then they went and they did receive through a congressional earmark through Senator Kennedy's office an appropriation of funds. I think it was $3.5 million to do this. However, it was through the Department of Transportation. So in order for them to do it, it had to be a public way. It couldn't be a
private university road.
A university driveway, right. It had to be a public road. So I was enlisted at the time to vet consultants, to go through the design process. Ty and Bond was hired at the time. We looked at that. There was some public outreach. But what really killed it was when they came back with a cost estimate of around $9 million to build this road. And the university just said, we only have,
3.5.
There you go. And it's going to say, well, no, we're not spending university funds like that for this road. They just, okay. All right. So then it was like, okay, well, we still have, $3.5 million. Well, they spent it on design and analysis. So they had about $2.5 million left. And they said, okay, we'll apply it to the Western Ave project, which then gave Western Ave some legs. It gave it some priority. So now there were some resources behind the project. And that's like the 6 years ago that you're saying that it really got some movement in it, momentum.
So about so in that timeline, about 20 years ago, in the mid to late 90s, the conversation started. Senator Kennedy, and then it just got put on a shelf. And and my question previously was going to be, well, why didn't Westfield just do it? Even okay, it's been put on the shelf, but Westfield's going to step up and pay the balance or pay the the difference between what the DOT is going to give us and what the project cost is. So why didn't Westfield step in and just say, we're going to do Western Ave because it's in such disrepair?
That's a kind of a little bit bigger question there, Pat. In that, first of all, let me point out that back in '99, the reason the city undertook it was the pavement was falling apart.
Right.
The public works director at the time said, we need a $2 million bond to take care of Western Ave and East Mountain Road. I'm not sure what the basis of that was, but $2 million didn't even cover a mill and overlay of Western Ave at the time. Okay, so that's all they ended up getting done was a mill and overlay of Western Ave. So it put the road to bed, sort of, so it was rideable, it was acceptable for the time being, and it bought us some time. Okay, understand the current. So, and we just went through a little bit of drama on Western Ave. In that, we had been programmed for about a $6 million effort, $6 million for Western Avenue from Llewellyn Drive to Lloyd's Hill. The most recent cost estimates then brought that up to $9.5 million.
Wow.
You don't just fit that. I mean, look, high transportation dollars are all vetted through the Metropolitan Planning Organization. They're programmed. Mass DOT has only, so much money that go to each region. So being able to fit it in was a difficulty. And we weren't the only ones. So a number of projects, there was a major issue that came up at the MPO with what's called the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program. So the TIP became unbalanced. We were fortunate then. We had to do some tweaking, but we were fortunate to get $8 million towards Lloyd's Hill. Okay, and so we're moving forward. We have $8 million
just for that little stretch of road.
Just for that section of road,
wow.
Which is not
the biggest
that
thing,
little. It's a good size, but still $8 million. Okay,
you have to. But the thing is, the reason that Western Ave keeps falling apart is because there's no drainage at all there. Everything just puddles
has
up.
To be put in. You're right. Yeah, and so that's $8 million to rebuild the road, to completely rebuild it. Okay. So my point here is, and so that $8 million. Look, the difference between $9.5, $8 million. Well, Lloyd's Hill is going to the next phase. We're going to have to we're not going to be doing it as part of Central.
Right. Well, fortunately,
excuse me.
And I haven't been on Lloyd's Hill in a while, but I think that the stretch of Lloyd's Hill, from a pavement standpoint, is in pretty good shape relative to Western Avenue.
Yes.
So it's okay to put Lloyd's Hill sort of on a temp.
And the next phase is programmed 2 years down the road, so it's not that big of an effort or much of a move or a hardship. But again, my point being, look, we're spending $8 million to rebuild a road that's a very limited segment. The city of Westfield, the resources we put at road repair is only $1.2 million a year. 1.2
for the whole city.
It takes $8 million for one segment of one street, and we're putting 1.2 to the entire city of 200 plus miles of road.
And the distance between the top of Lloyd's Hill and Llewellyn Drive is, I don't even think that's a mile, is it?
No.
Yeah, no, that's not a mile.
It's close, though. I think it's pretty close in there.
It is 6:22 in the morning. You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show. Mark Crissati, city engineer for Westfield, is my guest this morning. Take our first break. Thank some of our underwriters, and we'll be right back.
Lighter than air. Who's bending down to give me a rainbow? Everyone knows it's windy. Who's stripping down the streets of the city, smiling at everybody she sees? Who's reaching out to capture a moment? Everyone knows it's windy. And windy has stormy eyes that flash at the sound of lies, and windy has wings to fly above the clouds, above the clouds, above the clouds. And windy has stormy eyes that flash at the sound of light, and windy has wings to fly above the clouds, above the clouds. Who's stripping down the streets of the city, smiling at everybody she sees? Who's reaching out to capture a moment? Everyone knows it's windy. Who's stripping down the streets of the city, smiling at everybody she sees? Who's reaching out to capture a moment? Everyone knows it's windy. Who's stripping down the streets of the city, smiling at everybody she sees? Who's reaching out to capture a moment? Everyone knows it's windy. Who's jumping down the streets of the city, smiling at everybody she sees? Who's reaching out to capture.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Barnes & Noble College Bookstore in the Ely Campus Center, offering Westfield State t-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise, all of your academic needs, and offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Available at the bookstore on campus or online at westfieldstate.bncollege.com.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Wally Computer Associates, one of the largest technology providers in North America. Headquartered in Southwick, Wally provides all of the products and services that you'd expect from a world-class technology partner to schools, colleges, businesses, as well as state and local governments and agencies. Wally Computer Associates, meeting all of your technology needs. On the web at WCA.com.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Comcast and Xfinity.com, offering Xfinity TV, Internet, home phone, and home security services. Information on all that Xfinity has to offer in the Westfield area is available online at Xfinity.com.
We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
He rules the roost on Thursday from 6 till 10. It's Patrick Berry.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University. This is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Live around the world.
You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show on WSKB 89.5 FM Westfield.
here's your host, the owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Barry.
Good morning again, everybody. 6:27 a.m. Thursday, April 5th. I wish it were Friday.
Me too.
Yeah, who doesn't wish it was Friday, right? Except for those guys that work on the weekends, right?
Right, yeah.
Hey, don't put away the hats and gloves yet because it's winter out there this morning. The calendar may say April, but it's cold. I mean, it's 28 degrees out there, but the wind chill, if you didn't hear the wind overnight, the wind chill is bringing that temperature down closer to 20 degrees. So it's
Did you hear my first song?
Oh, yeah, windy.
Yeah.
I was paying attention. Today's high is only 42. You can have some partly sunny skies and high of 42. Tomorrow, it's back to winter. We're going to get snow tomorrow. But just like we had the other day, pretty much on your paved surfaces or your, what do they call them, Mark? Your non-impervious surfaces, right? You'll see the accumulation, but, on your impervious. Yeah, you'll see accumulation on the impervious surfaces, like your grasses and so forth, but on the roads and sidewalks and stuff, it should melt. But again, only in the 40s tomorrow. Saturday, same idea. Sunday, you might see some sun again in 43. Monday, 47. So it's cool for the next for the next several days. Tuesday, they're talking about another batch of snow coming through. Late next week, next Thursday, Friday, is when we may get back up into the 50s and even touch on 60. But that's still a week plus away. That's what's going on at 6:28 in the morning, Thursday, April 5th. We're live back here at the Tiger's Pride restaurant at the Westfield Technical Academy. Mark Cressati, city engineer for Westfield, is my guest. Good morning again, Mark. Thanks for getting up so early. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Pat.
So the first, before we went to break, we were talking about the Western Ave construction project, and you were giving us sort of a timeline. So over the course of the next few months, you'll be establishing right-of-ways from the property owners between the top of Lloyd's Hill and Llewellyn Drive, because that's the immediate section that needs to be addressed.
Correct.
So, and then once July 1st hits, bids will start to go out, and then it becomes a state project. It's out of the city's hands, except for, I guess, from sort of a minor oversight, I guess, right?
Yeah, we'll act as a liaison with any customer issues,
Okay.
customer resident issues
Right.
as construction proceeds. I'm sure we'll work close with the university, try to iron out issues. At times, the city is asked to come in and participate in whatever the resolution is. We try to make it as palatable and
I mean, it's a construction.
It is, right.
There's going to be disruption.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Yep.
So your timeline earlier, so the state basically takes over July 1st, bids go out, and you said 4 to 6 months of getting the bids back, vetting the bids out, awarding the bids. So now you're talking really Christmas.
Right.
So nothing will happen, really, you won't really see anything this year.
I don't expect it, right.
So here's the tricky thing. It'll happen next year,
That's
about
right.
this time next year.
Right.
And there is a parade planned this time next year.
Yeah, we're aware. We have
Westfield's 350th
that's
takes
right.
place in
Yep.
May of. It's all the rest of this year and into next year
Yep.
we're celebrating. But there's the parade that takes place. So how will that? You were just about to say, how will that construction project play into the little parade that we're planning?
Well, the construction project is going to be more than one construction season, so it's probably going to be like two, or a good part of two. We're aware of Westfield's 350th and their desires to do a parade. There's a lot of university events that go on that we're needing to cater to as well. So it's really going to come down to the contractor coordinating and wrapping up the site. Their work mainly is during work days, not on weekends, and they're required to button things up, like patching trenches that might be open. Certainly it'll be passable on the week. This is a weekend event for the parade, and the road shouldn't be torn up that early in the construction process. Generally, construction, they're looking to go and do the deepest stuff first, and come to the surface, and then do the surface. So they'll look at the deepest utilities, some minor sewer work that we have. There's some water work that needs to be done. There's some gas line work. There's some electrical work. And then there's all the drainage. So the drainage will probably be a big part of the first year, just getting it in the underground. Given that, I would think at the time of the parade, again, they'll patch whatever they've disturbed, and it should be a usable roadway.
Yeah, a couple of good things regarding that is I mean, the Westfield 350th Committee has contingency that the ideal route is staging at Stanley Park. Come out on the east entrance onto Kensington, head north to Western Ave, and then east along Western Ave downtown. The contingency is depending on what the construction is like on Western Ave and that up there. They could go Kensington south to Granville Road and then down towards Highland and merge back in. However, if you think about it, from the top of Lloyd's Hill to Kensington is really not that far.
It's not, yeah.
So
Right.
I think there's Kensington, Broadway, and I forget that other street that's in there. So it's really not that far.
Mm-hmm.
So they could still maintain the original route, but it'll probably be a last-minute decision, I'm sure.
I'm sure that it'll wait to that last minute to make the final decision. But I think they'll be fine to in that route. It'll be accommodated.
So now, for the Western Ave project, so top of Lloyd's Hill to Llewellyn Drive, which is really the front, the area right in front of Westfield State University, Stanley Park. That'll start about a year from now, give or take. That's phase one, and you said there is a phase two and a possible phase three. So phase one, at least 2 construction seasons. So now you're talking into 2020. Will phase two or phase three be launched while phase one is still going on, or is there a break between the phases?
Ideally, we won't see a break. We'll see construction just roll right into the next phase.
Okay.
As soon as we hand off the bid documents in July, we're going to get started in earnest or strongly with the next phase, the east phase, with the design, permitting, right-of-way acquisition again. So we'll have 2 years to do that and get that out to bid. And again, the funds are programmed in 2020. I think as we move, some of these cost escalations have been unnerving, and it would be something to take a look at. What are the costs and effects of the East, and do we still sit in 2020 for program funds? Certainly, the city will fight for that and work for it, and we'll do what we can, and hopefully that all works out and we're good.
Now, the east section picks up at the top of Lloyd's Hill and goes how far east? To the corner of Granville Road where Highland School is, or all the way down to Noble Hospital?
All the way to Noble Hospital.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Okay. That's good. I for some reason, I thought it ended further up near Highland School. So that's a good long stretch.
It's a good long stretch. It covers all of Pine Hill Cemetery. It covers the school, as you mentioned, and then all the section up to Lloyd's Hill. And now we'll include Lloyd's Hill as well. So.
Okay. Wow. So that's phase two seems to be much bigger project than the phase one.
They're about the same, actually. Yeah.
Okay. And then what's phase three? Phase three, we don't really hear too much about.
You don't hear too much about it. Phase three would really primarily is a local effort of extending sanitary sewers from Llewellyn Drive into the neighborhood beyond, including Western Ave, Bates, Llewellyn, Gladwin, Evergreen. Oh, okay. And so it's really in its primary, it's really very preliminary position. It's not going to be a state project. It will be a local project, again, with sanitary sewer funding.
Oh, okay. So when we look at the entirety of Western Ave, so if construction starts, spring of 2019, what's the, expected, what's the plan on paper, expected done date? Is it 2023? But I'm thinking of it, going out, the central section's a 2-year project. By the time the central section, phase one, is beginning to kind of wrap up section two, phase two will start, and that's going to be a couple of years. So now you're 4 years out from 2019, so that's 2023, right. And then phase three, because, you could be, it could be a while. Is that the plan to, kind of one on top of the other?
Yeah, you've got to be opportunistic. So, when the money's available, we're going to do everything we can to be in a position to spend it and utilize it. So, ideally, we'll roll right into the next project as east. And when monies are available for the west phase, the sewer effort, it doesn't have to follow after east. It could be concurrent. We'll do it whenever we have the resources.
So let me ask you a bigger picture question. With the things that are going on with the presidency and these tariffs that are being applied, how does that affect construction planning? I mean, I do, because it sounds as if prices are going to be changing for all sorts of imported goods, exported goods, for God knows how long. How do you anticipate that from a cost estimation? That's a good question.
There you go. It is. It's really good.
There's way too many what ifs in that question.
But again, I can't even imagine being in your shoes, hearing all the larger, the bigger picture things that are going on, and you're trying to estimate a project of holy smoke. What could be $9 million today, could be $6 million in 4 years, could be $20 million. You have no idea. I don't envy you.
Well, and really, so you like I say, being optimistic or opportunistic. That's DOT's some of their struggle is, look, they've got only so much money coming in and to program, and you've got to fit into this, their spreadsheet. And so what happens when your estimates escalate? Well,
right.
Now what do you do? And what's really a vexing problem is if let's say Western Avenue is scheduled this year for funding, and what happens? Okay, we went to $9.5 million and there were no other, that was it. Well, now you got to take it out of this year. You got to find another year to put it in. Okay.
Right.
Well, you just created a hole this year, and it's not. You don't just take another project and fill that hole. It takes years to put these things in place.
Well, like you said, this Western Ave was talked about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's not like all of a sudden, hey, we're going to rebuild whatever road.
Yeah.
Is before we go to our next break, just a quick question. And it's that time of year. Everybody complains about the roadways. It's the hot asphalt plants are just opening if they haven't opened already. So getting towns available, their hot patch and stuff. Is Western Ave one of the worst roads in Westfield right now from a I don't know, pavement standpoint? It's up there. It's got to be up there. Yeah.
I would say it's up there. Whether it's the worst, no, I wouldn't say it's the worst. But there are a number of bad roads out there for sure.
And we're going to address that when we come back from our break. It's 6:39 in the morning. You listen to the Westfield News Radio Show. Mark Crissati, engineer for the City of Westfield, is my guest. We're live at Tiger's Pride Restaurant down at Westfield Technical Academy, and we'll be right back.
Life is where
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Commercial Distributing Company of Westfield. Now in its third generation of family ownership, Commercial is one of the premier beverage distributors of Western Massachusetts. The Plasek family and the staff of Commercial Distributing wishes you good times throughout the year and urges you to drink responsibly.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
He rules the roost on Thursday from 6 till 10. It's Patrick Berry.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Live around the world.
You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show on WSKB 89.5 FM Westfield.
Here's your host, the owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Berry.
Good morning again, everybody. 6:46 a.m. Thursday, April 5th. It's a cold and windy 28 degrees outside your door. If you thought winter was over and spring was here, you thought wrong. It is going to be cold today. Cold and windy today. High temperature only 42 with some peaks of sun and clouds all day long. Tonight, low back down into the mid to low 20s, so we're not out of the woods yet. Tomorrow, they're talking about snow. Yeah, I said it, snow. Really no accumulation except for on those grassy surfaces. Nothing, the streets and sidewalks should be fine. My old weather app here is telling me 70% chance of snow, but really with zero accumulation. So it'll snow, but you won't see much. Saturday, cloudy and 41 degrees. Sunday, partly sunny and 43. All of your overnight lows are down into the 20s over the course of the next few nights. Monday, the 9th, back to the school week, 47 degrees and partly sunny. And then Tuesday, they're talking more snow. And then Wednesday, 48 degrees. And then possibly late next week, it could creep back up into the 50s and might even hit on 60 at the end of next week. So, for about the next week, we still got a little bit of cold, ugly weather to get through. But, and then hopefully the end of next week, it'll change. Taking a quick check of the headlines that you'll read both in print later today and up online at thewestfieldnews.com. Last night, the planning board meeting this week in the city of Westfield, the cell phone company had submitted an application for a new cell phone tower in Westfield. They had done that a couple of months ago for a cell phone tower in the vicinity of Shaker Farms Country Club off Shaker Road. Apparently, I don't have Verizon, but some people who do have said that services in Westfield is spotty. So Verizon is actively trying to erect some towers. The Westfield Planning Board also discussed zoning for recreational marijuana establishments. So depending on what the planning board comes up with, where recreational marijuana retailers can be located. Down in Southwick, the Southwick School Committee passed their fiscal year 2019 budget. You'd be surprised to see that there's a decrease there. So you'll see that. Let's see what else is going on. Let's see what else. It's Thursday. That means it's Mark Auerbach, his weekly Arts Beat column. High school sports is back in full swing. All the springtime sports are in play: baseball, softball, lacrosse, volleyball, et cetera, and Chris Putz is out there running around. A former Westfield High School baseball standout, Colin Dunn, who is a baseball player at Westfield State University, has been named the MASCAC Player of the Week. So there's always a lot going on in the Westfield News and the surrounding areas. So pick up a copy of the Westfield News. Back live here at the Tigers Pride at 6:49 a.m. Mark Crissati, engineer for the city of Westfield, is my guest. Good morning again, Mark.
Good morning, Pat.
So we've spent a lot of time this morning talking about Western Ave because that is really the next big major major project for the city of Westfield. Or is it? Is there anything else going on that your office is working on that could come up in the next few years? Or is that really the focus?
It's the most immediate. It's
Okay.
looming. It's people are very anxious to see it happen. They would like to see construction happening this year. So certainly I think it's foremost in everybody's mind, Western Ave Central. Obviously, Western Ave East is going to be an active project and moving forward with that shortly after. Will involve a number of neighborhood outreach meetings as well,
Right.
some hopefully some park enhancements, traffic signal improvements. But beyond that, we also have the Columbia Greenway Central that's moving forward. We're looking to hand that off. Again, the bid documents for Western Ave, for Columbia Greenway Central around April of next year.
And let me interrupt. The central section of that is basically from the Stop and Shop Main Street area, where the bridge was
Yes.
removed several years ago,
Right.
north to where they're working on the river crossing
correct.
at the old railroad trestle. So that's the central section.
That's correct.
Okay.
Right. So we have some 5 bridges involved there. The rehab of the Elm Street Bridge, replacement with a new bridge over Main Street, and then there's 3 secondary bridges, Thomas Orange and Chapel Streets.
Right.
So there's a bit of work to be done there. The trail itself will be, we've had a public outreach meeting. We'll be having a public hearing somewhere in the upcoming months.
If I
again,
recall correctly, the meeting you had maybe a month or so ago?
about that.
Yeah, about a month or so ago. Pretty sparsely attended, right?
Well, I thought it was well attended. There were about, I would say, about 30 people.
Oh, okay.
But the
More than I
problem
thought.
being
Okay.
that they were mostly friendly people. So we had sent out. Well, I mean, that's So look, I really wanted to. This is going to be change, and change is hard. And so somebody that's sitting there next to the old railroad bed, and there's this overgrown berm. It's going to be disturbing for them that gets cleared out and opened up, and people are invited to be traveling on it.
Right.
That's kind of unnerving. Well, so what does that mean? I mean, how unnerving? Is there something I need to do in my design to try to accommodate, your
Right.
concerns?
Well, when the rail trail construction was the southern phase leading up to
Yep.
the Stop and Shop Main
Yep.
Street, there was a lot of that because,
Yeah.
once you get beyond, really a Tin Bridge, then you start to get into populated areas.
Yeah.
And I do recall one property owner down along the East Silver Street side was very concerned and was very vocal about people being right there with his or her property right there. Let's fast forward a few years now. How has the addition of the rail trail, the southern part from Stop and Shop South, how have those abutters, is it as bad as they thought? Is it better? Is it, have you had any interaction with any of those property owners?
We have. We've done some. We did do some mitigation. There was a bit of shock involved for those people. And part of it was they were their use of their lawn, what they perceived to be their lawn, was actually part of the railroad bed. So
Right.
we were actually then taking part of their yard away for use of the ramp. As well as then, now the public was getting closer. They always had concerns about vagrant population in that brush that was growing there.
Yeah.
That, I believe, is gone. Now you have, people that are using it for purposes, and people that were sort of not supposed to be there, they've moved on.
Moved on
somewhere
another
else,
place,
okay?
right.
We've mitigated, as I mentioned. We put in some landscaping. We put in some fencing for people. We tried to do what we could, and I have not heard, again, at least for a couple of years, any complaints. I've not heard from ward councilors any complaints.
Good.
I'm not saying that it's all hunky-dory and happy, but I think people have
The
come
concerns
to
are
accept it and
correct, yeah.
and work with it.
So what is...
And I would say, too, I mean, I've been told and have come to understand that, as these trails are built, I mean, people who are buying real estate or looking to move something, that's an amenity, something that they're looking for, something that it will actually raise the property values of these abutters and make them more desirable. So there's benefit to it.
It's funny you say that because over the last several years, I've come across a lot of research of communities around the country that are similar to Westfield, converting an old rail line into, what do they call it, a linear park, right? Is that what the phrase is? Yeah. And you're absolutely right. It changes the dynamic of the real estate market and the downtown central corridors of these places when the rail line goes through it. It becomes more popular, I guess, for lack of a better description. Real estate homes become more desirable, as you say, because there's easy access. Our generation is a little bit different than the younger generation. Our generation, we didn't really think too much about jumping on our bicycle or walking to work. The younger generation, they want to be in close proximity to where they live and work. So homes along a rail trail are easily accessible to a rail trail, and then get right to work from there. It's very attractive.
Yeah. So I think that the Columbia Greenway Central and the Columbia Greenway being completed is really a significant strategic improvement for the city of Westfield. It makes the downtown an attractive place, a more attractive place to live, work, and play. It raises property values. It makes a demand for people to come down. I believe it's going to actually serve as a conduit for tourism to come into the city of Westfield. We've done some really heavy lifting as far as making the city an attractive place to be, and I think you're going to see that in its use.
And I think I shared with you when I had the coffee shop, the press room down at the Westfield News office. We weren't right off the rail trail, but I had some people on bicycles who found me, and they weren't from Westfield. These were people from Connecticut and south who, they would bike up the rail trail, and then they were looking for a snack or something, so they could go back. Yeah. So, and I'm sure, some of the other places that are even closer to the rail trail are going to we're benefiting even greater than I. So what do you think the time frame is for completion for that central section from Main Street to the Westfield River crossing?
Okay, Pep, I'm sorry, but before we step off, I just wanted to note that look, there is an attraction to the new demographics and new generation, but there's also the Columbia Greenway Central particularly goes through a pretty economically stressed neighborhoods. Okay. Yeah. Those neighborhoods, they can't afford cars. I mean, never mind not wanting a car or wanting to work, they can't afford the car. So this provides them a conduit to walk through the center of town without having to cross streets, get to the bus station, get around, get to jobs without the need for a car. So we're serving the population that exists as well as setting up for a population that
True. Good point. I didn't think of that. Right.
And so, time frame on it. Look, we've got a bit to do. We've got a little bit of permitting to do. We have some right-of-way acquisition, and it's not just temporary. There's some permanent acquisition. And we've got the design and getting the message out there to people and how to advance the design. Again, we're looking for a handoff of those bid documents, the PS&E, the target currently is April of next year, so 1 year hence.
Wow.
And then it'll take another the 4 to 6 months for DOT to do their process and award a contract. So perhaps by fall of 2019 we'll see construction beginning.
Wow, and then probably a couple of construction seasons.
I would say so, given we got 5 bridges involved. Yeah.
Very good. It is 6:58 in the morning. You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show. Mark Crosati is my guest today. We're going to take a break. Thank some of our underwriters, and we'll be right back after the top of the hour.
Take me now, baby, here as I am. Pull me close, try and understand. Desire is hunger, is the fire I breathe. Love is a banquet on which we feed. Come on now, try and understand the way I feel when I'm in your head. Take my hand, come undercover. They can't hurt you now, can't hurt you now, can't hurt you now. Because the night belongs to lovers, because the night belongs to life, because the night belongs to lovers, telephone. Love is an angel disguised as lust. Here in our bed until the morning comes. Come on now, try and understand the way I feel under your command. Take my hand as the sun descends. We can touch you now, can touch you now, can touch you now. Because the night belongs to lovers. Because the night belongs to life. Because the night belongs to lovers. Because the night belongs to us.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Commercial Distributing Company of Westfield. Now in its third generation of family ownership, Commercial is one of the premier beverage distributors of Western Massachusetts. The Plasek family and the staff of Commercial Distributing wishes you good times throughout the year and urges you to drink responsibly. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
He rules the roost on Thursday from 6 till 10. It's Patrick Berry.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University. This is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Live around the world.
You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show on WSKB 89.5 FM Westfield.
Here's your host, the owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Berry.
Good morning again, everybody. 7:04 a.m., Thursday, April 5th, 2018. It's cold. It's 28 degrees outside your door. The sun is up. It is looks like it's mostly sunny skies right now, and it will be that way today. Only 42 degrees today, but from my vantage point, Pete, I don't know if you can tell any different. It looks like the wind is sort of slowed down for now.
I hope so.
Yeah, but it was howling. It actually woke me up at one point in the middle of the night, and it was cold walking in here over an hour ago, so with that wind chill. So even though the temperature, the high temperature today is going to be 42, it looks, feels like is probably going to be less than that. We're actually in a little bit of a winter cold spell for the next several days. Tomorrow, sorry to tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, but there's snow. Good news is you're going to have school because it's not really going to accumulate. So sorry, kids. 70% chance of snow tomorrow. Only 45 degrees is your high. Saturday, cloudy and 41. Sunday, partly sunny and 43. Monday, partly sunny and 47. All of the overnight temperatures from now through Tuesday actually are going to be in the low 30s to 20s. So we're in a little bit of a cold snap here. Tuesday.
You just threw a shot at all the kids about not having school tomorrow. Don't you have a senior in your house?
Oh, trust me. It can be sunny and 60, and she'll go, snow day? No snow day. What do we have? I think we had 5 snow days this year. So we were one short of instituting blizzard bags.
Correct, yes.
Yep. So the next chance of snow is next Tuesday, and then maybe by late next week, this time next Thursday or Friday. By the way, next Friday, a week from tomorrow, is Friday the 13th. Just sort of tipping you off on that. Anyway, so the end of next week, we could see some warmer weather. So next Thursday, April 12th, on the old Westfield News Radio Show, I have at-large City Councilor Matt Emmershai coming on. Matt has been very vocal about the water issues in Westfield, so we're going to have Matt on. We'll talk to him about those sorts of things. But before I pass this off, Pete, I don't know if I told you this story. So the 7 o'clock intro is the U2 song that comes on.
Yes.
And maybe about a month and a half ago, a buddy of mine texted me and he says, "Hey, did you know U2's wrapping up their North American tour at Mohegan Sun this year?" And
really?
That's what I said. So I go, well, let's check it out. Let's see what tickets are like. So at that point, they were only available for
pre-sale, probably. Right?
Yeah, for U2 club fan club members only, right?
Right. Yep.
And that was to join for a year was $100. As much as I love U2, I'm not paying $100 to join a fan club. So a couple weeks later, tickets went on sale for the general public, and it's Mohegan Sun. What's that?
About 9,000 seat arena.
Yeah, so it's not that big. The only seats that were left were the upper level.
Yep.
Take a stab at the cheapest price.
$250 a pop.
$375, my friend.
Wow.
300. So I text my buddy back. I go, how many you want?
Good luck.
$375 for one seat for a concert.
You better have seen him in a big arena like Foxborough or something.
I went there last summer and saw him at Foxborough, and I think my tickets were $62.
Right.
But again, I still remember going.
Difference between 9,000 seats and 80,000 seats.
True. But again, all of us of this generation will remember going to the Springfield Civic Center for probably your first concert, and the ticket price was less than $20.
Floor for 50.
Yeah, well, Mark, you probably remember concerts, for probably $10, $12. That was my first concert at the Springfield Civic Center was $12.
There you go. I'm sorry, a little bit so far away, I can't remember the price.
But yeah, I thought I'd share that U2 story with you, Pete. So anyway, Mark Cressati is my guest. He is Mark. If you're unfamiliar with him, he is the engineer for the city of Westfield. Oversees a lot of stuff. You'd be surprised of the things that come across Mark's office. How many people in your staff?
I've got 2 engineers working with me. We're doing a number of things, obviously, but I've got some really talented people. Jeremy Siegel's formerly working at Ty and Bond. I'm thankful he's decided to come work for the city of Westfield. And I've got Matt Gamelli, a really motivated young man that is looking really good. We also do the GIS through the engineering department, so we've got a new employee, Mike. Bazigian is the last name.
Bazigian. I think I know his father.
There you go. You probably do. So he's new. We just had actually a coffee hour welcoming him into City Hall yesterday. So
nice. Brand spanking new.
That's about it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's for basically a 4-person staff, you and 3 others. There's a lot that goes on.
We manage some pretty significant work, and it's been a great honor and privilege over the course of my career to be able to do that. I've really been pleasantly surprised at how much we've been able to do. I've been able to work with some amazing leadership, Mayors Sullivan's and
Sullivan's, plural.
It's
right.
It's been a real privilege.
It has to be very satisfying for you to see some of these projects, and we'll kind of go back in time for over the last decade. The twin bridges that have gone up over the Westfield River, the Elm, the Main and Broad Street, Court Street. Some of these projects that, and it's funny. My mother talked about in the 50s a concept of adding a second bridge over the Westfield River. And you talk about that from the 50s, and it finally got done in, 2007? 2008?
2010. It was
2010. So it has to be very, very satisfying for you to see some of these major projects that come to conclusion.
It is amazing, and you're right. I mean, I remember sitting at my grandmother's kitchen table every Sunday. We'd go after church and talk about the issues of Westfield, and it just seemed like nothing moved or got advanced, and it was great then to be able to actually get things done. I mean, Great River was a real heavy lifting, dealing with the railroad, dealing with river crossings, dealing with the major change that involved.
That really put the engineering mind to the test, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's good reason
but it's a good challenge. It's fun.
It got done because it was major lifting. I mean, I don't know if people remember, but there used to be lines of cars, a queue of cars from Park Square Green to the Turnpike and back the other way, and trucks had to get out at Blessed Sacrament Church before the Butcher Block, get out of the main corridor, go around through Union Ave, come under the railroad, and then get back in just before the bridge. Yep. And no traffic signal. What a fiasco it was.
And it's funny because when you come across some of those old pictures, you forget that where the westernmost bridge is now, the original bridge we'll call it. Along the north side of the river, there were a series of businesses there. And you forget that they were there. Now it's a beautiful park. It's.
I really don't miss the monthly truck hitting the bridge call.
That's
monthly.
Right.
It was monthly.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was even that.
Some truck didn't get out of the queue, didn't get out of line, and they went and hit the railroad bridge.
Yep.
Right. And I think it was more frequently than monthly, though, Pete.
I think Prifty's missed all that business.
You're right. True. So, was there one thing that you can point to, in the last 15 to 20 years that said that allowed Westfield to get these projects done? Was there anything that, because like I said, these bridges were talked about for 50 years. Was there anything that just sort of changed in the, whether it was the local or state or global economic world, that sort of said, okay, do it now?
I think there was sort of a coming together, an alignment of the stars, if you would. I mean, we had, again, we had some good talent in-house. We had some good leadership in the mayor's office. We had fortuitous events with the Clinton era and surplus funds. We had a political debate just before the Clintons between the George Bush Sr. and our governor, Mike Dukakis, who was running for president.
And you're talking, that's the early 90s. That's going back a time. Yeah.
So, I mean, that set up this dynamic where, the George Bush Sr. came and embarrassed Governor Dukakis with Boston Harbor and numerous issues. So then it was easy for the Clintons, or it was a need for the Clintons to turn around and say, well, all right, here's money to address those defects that were identified. And so monies came to the Commonwealth. And then Rick Sullivan was an open-minded, long-term thinker, a visionary that, was open to some of these ideas, and we put in sort of a plan of, okay, look, here, put this together and that together, and it gained some momentum, some real life.
I mean, as you said, the stars aligned and these things came to fruition. Wow.
And that wasn't easy. Look, Rick Sullivan, I'll hand it to him. He was told, we can get Great River, designed in like 3 years. It was 14 years. He had to run 7 times as mayor. That's unheard of, unprecedented. 7 times. That's just to get the project bid, just to hand off that PS&E, the bid documents for Great River Bridge. That's not even starting construction.
Wow.
It's like, oh my God.
And and I know you and people, other city employees and elected officials talk about the speed or lack thereof of which government works. And we just kind of passed this conversation of, some of these projects are talked about decades ago. So what are we working, or what are you working on now that are just sort of ideas that, could be, or maybe even more than ideas that we might not see come to fruition for 15, 20 years? What is out there?
Well, we've got a number of ideas, but as you, I think, started off this segment saying that we're in a bit of a lull. Well, we're in a lull in that there's not a lot of funds being dedicated to advancing ideas. Mayor Sullivan came in and was concerned and wanted to dedicate resources to roads. But that, more to the condition of the roads and paving roads, but we're not putting a lot of money into design for future
bigger projects.
efforts,
Right.
So we're doing what we can.
There is the one though, right along, I guess, going back to the Westfield Riverfront, west of the between the two bridges, the westernmost car bridge and the rail trail bridge, the old train trail. Isn't there talk of something like where the old casket factory was, Sue's restaurant, somewhere some sort of development right there with. And by the way, if people aren't aware, there are bocce courts up there.
That's correct.
So I got to check those out. I didn't realize there were bocce courts there until the end of last season. So I got to head up there
There you
and
go.
grab a couple of buddies and play some bocce.
And it's a beautiful location. I got to say, it
right
was,
along the riverfront.
You would think that we planned it. I wish we could say we did. But if you look at the river there, some great, just these low waterfalls in the area. It's really just the sound and the vision, the view is really a pleasant experience being up there.
So is that an area of development?
So one of the reasons we did advance that piece of the Columbia Greenway was, the city has two urban renewal plans out there. We have one for Elm Street, and there's one for that area around Sue's restaurant. So with that urban renewal, we wanted to try to enhance what we term the Esplanade area, the south bank of the Westfield River between Sackett Street and Elm Street, to set it up and look at give people the opportunity to vision what could be in this area, not just what's easy to do. So it's a new urban renewal area. So there is plans, and we are working to try to advance extending that Esplanade along the levee in either direction from the Great River Bridge area all the way out to Congress on the west and to the east out to Meadow Street. So once we complete the Columbia Greenway, it'll cross the Westfield River there, and then hopefully it'll get crossed with another east-west trail and be a real network serving the neighborhoods in the area. So we're working on that. As far as road projects, we've got some that we'd like to undertake and see what the administration wants to do. I think we're still coming to grips with, there's a lot of, I think, issues that have come up and pressing as far as like the water issues that the mayor is dealing with that have put some of this longer term planning to side. So
it kind of changes. It could change your plans. Again, who would have thought a year ago? We'd need a $13 million bond to address water.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, as you just pointed out, well, that sort of changes the immediacy of what the city needs to do.
Right. So, the mayor's already grappling with sort of an emergency. It's like, well, so when I come and say, well, we should think about long-term, he's like, let me put this to bed.
Right. Yeah. It's 7:18 in the morning. You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show. Mark Cressati is my guest this morning. When we come back, we're going to talk about a couple of other issues. 200-plus miles of road in Westfield. What's going to get paved this year? What's going to get repaired? What levels of repair are going to happen? And then we're going to talk sewer installations in various and sundry sections of the city. So we're going to take a break, thank some of our underwriters, and we'll be right back.
you nobody ever told you that you would be coming into the next door. I know nobody told you that you would be coming into the next door. We're coming, 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 coming home. You ask me, am I happy? Well, let's not terrify. I can say that I was happy, 'cause we all just made a pact. We've agreed to get together, join as children and die. When you're moving in the positive, your destination is the brightest star. You didn't know that you would be jumping into the place go down. But you nobody ever told you that you would be jumping into the place go down. You would be jumping into the place go down. Don't you stop the music, go down. Breathe in, breathe out.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Barnes and Noble College Bookstore in the Ely Campus Center, offering Westfield State t-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise, all of your academic needs, and offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Available at the bookstore on campus or online at westfieldstate.bncollege.com. Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley. With convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut, visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
He rules the roost on Thursday from 6 till 10. It's Patrick Berry.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Live around the world.
You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show on WSKB 89.5 FM Westfield.
Here's your host, the owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Berry.
Good morning again, everybody. 7:25 a.m., Thursday, April 5th, 2018. Still cold outside. Still, the temperature really hasn't changed much. It's still 28 degrees, going up to the low 40s today. It's cold. The wind that was howling overnight. You may still experience some of the wind today, which will make the air temperature feel much colder than the actual thermometer says. Getting up to 41 today and clear. Tomorrow, Friday the 6th, it will be cloudy, snowy. Yes, snowy. We won't have any accumulation, so you don't have to worry about that. Sorry, kids, you're going to have school tomorrow. And 45 degrees. Saturday, cloudy and 40. Sunday, partly sunny and 43. Monday, partly sunny, 47. Tuesday, snow again in the low 40s. Wednesday, partly sunny and 47. And each of the nights through next Wednesday are all in the low 30s or 20s. So we're in a little bit of a cold spell here for the next several days. The long-range forecast on the old weather app on the phone looks like we might get back to 60 degrees or so a week from now. So the end of next week. And that is Friday the 13th is a week from tomorrow. So that is no Friday the 13th horror story about the 60 degrees. So that's what's going on there. Taking a quick check of the headlines that you'll read both in print later today and up online at the westfieldnews.com. It's Thursday, so that means it's Mark Auerbach's weekly Arts Beat column. We have the Southwick School Committee passed their fiscal year 2019 budget. Believe it or not, it's a budget decrease, so find out how they were able to save some money there. The Westfield Planning Board had a couple of things presented to them this week that they discussed. One of them is recreational marijuana zoning here in Westfield. It's a long discussion and debate about where to allow recreational marijuana retailers. Also, the cellular company Verizon submitted an application to erect another cell phone tower here in Westfield. Apparently, they have some. I don't have Verizon. I have AT&T, but some folks with Verizon said that their service is spotty at best here in Westfield. It is the spring sports season, so Chris Putz, our sports editor, got him keeping him busy right now between baseball, softball, lacrosse, volleyball, and all the other assorted and sundry high school sports. We've got 5 schools in our area. St. Mary's, Westfield High School and Technical Academy in Westfield, Southwick, and Gateway Regional Schools in a couple of other towns, and boys and girls sports at both schools. So there's a lot going on for Chris Putz and our photography team. So that's what's happened at 7:28 in the morning. We're live back here at Tiger's Pride Restaurant at Westfield Technical Academy. Mark Crissati is my guest this morning. Half hour left, Mark. Thanks for getting up early today. I appreciate you coming down. Before we went to the break, I teased with some of the final topics we want to talk about today, and one of those is people have been talking about it for years. From an acreage or square mileage standpoint, the city of Westfield is one of the largest properties in the state of in the state of Massachusetts. It's good, because we've got some nice residential areas, we've got some nice rural areas. The downside is you need roadways to get to all of those areas, which means there is 200 and some odd miles of roadway in Westfield. The number, I don't know, but I know it's north of 200. And the problem with that is every one of them gets traveled every day by somebody, and it's hard to maintain all those roads. So from a city engineering standpoint, Mayor Sullivan's edict was to let's get our roads back in shape. So what roadways throughout Westfield is your department looking at, but with guidance from the mayor to really, either do a skim coat like you did on Union Street or a micro coat, whatever you guys called that, to really, reconstructing a roadway. And we already talked Western Ave, but what else is out there that your department's looking at that residents can be prepared for?
Well, first of all, we work with the Department of Public Works, and the department has done, is attempting to do sort of an asset management, an assessment of their pavement conditions. They've gone out with a consultant known as Beta Group to do a pavement management program, one that we had in the office and had in the city, but it was time to reinitiate it, and so we're in the process of doing that. They're out getting the data that they need to, and the hope of that then, or what that provides us is then sort of an assessment of the condition of all the roadways, and then it gives us a sort of a management tool to be able to say, look, if I've got X amount of dollars, where's the best place, and tweak the approach to extend those dollars, and look at the various types of approaches you can do to the different roadways to try to make it work bigger. It's also going to help to underscore what you need. I mean, if you really want to improve the condition of the asset, you're going to need a certain funding level, and that'll help to support then, I think, an approach in that direction.
Now, when you and Dave Billups and Fran Kane get together to talk about the roadways to attack, you must look at it, okay, this road, the systemic problem with this road is drainage, but we don't have the funds now to really do a reconstruction, whether it be like Western Avenue or Little River Road, Route 187. So you're looking at maybe when I call it a short-term repair, maybe a 10-year fix to it, or do you guys get together and say, okay, and I'm gonna arbitrarily pick a road, North Road. I understand North Road is not in great condition.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you've been out there, and Dave's been, and Fran have been out there. That's most likely a drainage issue, but there's no funds to really rebuild North Road. So is it a short-term, 10-year? Let's skim it back and throw a microcoat or whatever you guys call it.
Well, to the point that, and I've said it before, and to the mayor and others, that look, we're given the resources we've got, we're not in a position to be doing things right, if you will. We're in the position of doing things the best we can. And so, to your point, when you go to do a roadway like North Road, you're going to look at, okay, what can I do with the resources I got? Again, we've got from Chapter 90 funds, you've got $1.2 million to go citywide. Obviously, you need to supplement that, and you're right. The pavement condition is directly related to the drainage. There's an argument to be made that, look, stormwater fees and funds should be used to address drainage defects of a roadway.
Right.
In particular, North Road that you've mentioned, we are looking to do an improvement to North Road this year. What's termed, I believe, it's a called in-place process, where it's sort of like a train of vehicles that go through. It's a new endeavor, a new application for the city. We haven't done this before. But the point being that, look, there's a number of conditions that need to be met. They've got to come in and identify, and what they're looking for is really a long road without a lot of interruption, a lot of utilities in the road, and North Road's a great candidate, and we'll see how that works. But it seems it should be a low cost but yet significant improvement to the pavement in that approach. There are other approaches, like you say, with the fog seal that they did on Union Street. They're looking to do something similar on South Maple. You see the crack sealing that's been going on. Crack sealing's been is an attempt to try and again make the pavement impervious, to keep the water out, to keep again addressing that water issue, and extends the life of the pavement. So. There's some lower cost approaches that we look at, as well as then trying to make the Chapter 90 funds we have stretch the farthest we can.
I'm sorry, on a road like South Maple, and I know the concerns were voiced, I believe it was at the city council meeting last week, or I don't know, I forget which meeting it was. A resident who lives on South Maple voiced some concerns about the condition of it, and one of the concerns was that the manhole covers, for lack of a better description, are below grade, maybe a couple of inches. They've just over the years have been pushed down, and is there any way? And I don't know whether that falls under your department's purview or another, because if you drive South Maple Street, as a driver, you're trying to avoid those because they're like potholes almost, but they're just depressions because the manhole's sunk down a little bit. Is there any way to kind of rebuild those back up, just to kind of again make the road smoother?
There is. You can. You have to cut the pavement around them and rebuild it underneath. And
is that a small project? Is it a big project?
It's not rebuilding the road. Structures need to be adjusted. It's a sort of a routine effort, but it is an effort. It's it'll take a good amount of effort. Again, you've got to patch the road, and again, not to speak for the Department of Public Works, but their crews and equipment. It would be challenging. So, and again, it's a separate department. Yep. We work closely with them, but and I don't want to speak for them in their challenges. But
when Dave, I had Dave Billups on the show last year, and he had said that he's trying to utilize his staff in ways that they hadn't been before. I think I want to say they did. Did they do the Union Street?
Yes, they
coating,
did.
yeah. So, which was very successful.
Yep.
So and his guys and girls are trying to do other projects. I think I want to say they did either the water line or the sewer line on Ponders Hollow Road. Yep. So some of the projects they're trying, and they're getting better at it with each project. So, hopefully, the your engineering department and Dave's DPW can work together to get some of these, like you say, North Road. Here's a concept that, North Road, is a good test case. Give it a try, like Union Street was. Shifting gears a little bit, sewers. So the current sewer projects in Westfield are taking place where?
Well, we're wrapping up the Joseph Ave neighborhood. So the sewers are complete there. We're almost at a point where people can start connecting to that sewer. We're just waiting for the contractor to give us ties to where the individual connection points at the properties were left. And then we have a process for accepting the system, and then people can tie in. But what we're now putting together is the bid to go out to bid for the restoration of the pavement. Because we put a sewer in, it's very devastating. There's very little left of the roadway. So now we need to restore the roadway. So we should be going out to bid in a few weeks on that effort. And that would probably be occurring near the end of school, probably the end of June, because we're certainly, with the school being there, Paper Mill Road, we want to actually do the improvement to Paper Mill Road when the school is not in session. So it'll be geared around that location. So that's ongoing. It's actually being then wrapping up that sewer improvement project. We're currently, we started last year, the Bigwood Ridgecrest neighborhood. We did Gary and Kelly Drive last year, and we still need to come back and redo the roads and areas. But now they're starting on Fawn Drive, Fawn Lane, near and running the sewer through that, and they'll be running up Bigwood and Blueberry and some ancillary areas associated with that. So that's a good-sized sewer project as well.
Now, why that neighborhood? When you look at, just the length of time that neighborhood's been in existence, which is maybe 25, 30 years, why that neighborhood, say before like a Colony Drive, an Old Farm, a Birch Bluffs, which has been around for 50, 60 years, why attack a neighborhood like this before attacking a neighborhood that's older? Is there any particular reason why?
It's a good question. So look, the monies used for sanitary sewer extensions are an element of the sewer use fee. So people that are on the sewer system are paying for the expansion of the sewer system, a portion of it. Since everybody in the city is paying for the sewer, the city's approach has been that we want to sort of do projects in each ward in a cycle sort of thing. And we used to pay as we go, and we'd build up the money, and then we'd do a project once we had it. Given the favorable rates out there, the City Council recently passed rate increases that would support bonding, that would accelerate the sewer extension, and using the bonding then to start into some of these neighborhoods. So Joseph was funded that way, and so was Bigwood neighborhood. The two highest demand wards in the city are wards 5 and 6. So I mean, there's the city is, as you mentioned, a good-sized area. It's got different needs. Obviously the downtown isn't in need of sewer expansion as much as sewer repairs. Probably needing more sidewalks than sewers. And so, I mean, each ward has its unique demands for infrastructure. Anyway, so wards of 5 and 6 are higher demands for expansion of the sewer system. So when the bonds became available, we did Ward 6. Now we're doing Ward 5, and we'll just continue the process.
Is there, I mean,
And
after...
why Colony not, it was the ward leadership, Councilor Paul, was really pushing for that neighborhood. So,
Yeah, it is weird, though, that, the current project, Bigwood, Fawn, and Blueberry, the surrounding streets have sewer.
Yep.
So it's like this one small pocket of septic systems in a neighborhood that's all sewer. So I kind of understand that.
Yeah.
So what do you know? Is there another sewer project slated? Maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, or is it all funding based?
It is funding based. It obviously, as I mentioned, we're a bit opportunistic. But we do anticipate going certain areas. We've got projects, the next projects in each ward that we're looking at. We have already done some of the design on Pine Ridge in Ward 5 as part of the effort that we're currently doing. We had to scale it back, so we had started on Pine Ridge, and so it's pretty far along as far as design.
Oh, okay.
I think also Plantation Circle is pretty close to being completed. I would hope to have that bid this summer.
Where's Plantation Circle? I'm drawing a blank.
It's off of Hillside Road or Sunnyside Road.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
All right. Yep.
All right. So they've been looking for sewers for a long period of time, and probably 20 years, close to that anyways.
Oh, okay.
So we're finally getting to that point. But then there's a number of areas around the city, and that'll have to get vetted with mayor and council as far as where we go next.
So is it a sort of a grassroots effort from the homeowners, or go to your ward councilor? So if there's maybe I'm just arbitrarily picking a section of city, maybe out in Ward 4 that Plantation's in Ward 4, right? No, that's still 5. But maybe there's a section of Ward 4 that a neighborhood says, we really want sewers over here, we don't have them. Is it sort of a grassroots effort? Go to their ward councilor, maybe hit up some at-large councilors, speak to the mayor, talk to you. How does that process work?
Well, I think certainly there's some grassroots that, look, the residents need to make known that, they're having a difficulty and hardship, or they want, and how stressed their situation is. Obviously, they make that known to the ward councilor and to the mayor. We have some understanding and appreciation of those difficulties as well. We've put together sort of a strategic plan on where we need to go. As funding becomes available, but it does get down to, then the mayor and councilors dealing with the pressures that be and the resources that they have and how they manage to where the next step is.
Oh, okay. Very good. Very good. We're going to take our last break for the morning. It's 7:43 a.m. You listen to the Westfield News Radio Show. We're live at Tigers Pride. I don't know if you heard it earlier. They were doing it. They did the Pledge of Allegiance, Pete. Well,
the morning announcements.
The morning announcements. There you go.
Yep.
So it's a new. We never had that when we were at the press room down on School Street.
I know. The first time you were here, it scared the bejesus out of you.
That was when we were at Westfield High School.
That's right. That's right. Because that's loud in the gym.
When it was Science Fair Day. Holy smokes, that buzzer scared.
You know what? There was nobody in the building, and all of a sudden the morning bell goes off. That was
a 2-hour
you.
delay that morning because it snowed.
Right. There was nobody but us and the custodians.
Oh man. It is 7:44 in the morning. We're going to take our last break. Thank some of our underwriters, and we'll come back with more for more with Mark Crosati. We'll be right back.
No matter what you think you hold, you'll find it's not enough. No matter who you think you know, you won't get through. It's a given, hell and law. Someone take down. Everybody wants into the crowded line. Break down, take down. You busted. Shake down, break down. Hurry, just about the time you think that it's alright. Break down, take down. You busted. Shake down, break down, take down. Everybody wants into the crowded line. Break down, take down. You busted. Let down your guard, honey. Just about the time you're thinking it's alright. Break down, take down. Oh, you busted. Shake down, break down, take down. Everybody wants into the crowded line. Break down, take down. You busted.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Barnes & Noble College Bookstore in the Ely Campus Center, offering Westfield State t-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise, all of your academic needs, and offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Available at the bookstore on campus or online at westfieldstate.bncollege.com.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Commercial Distributing Company of Westfield. Now in its third generation of family ownership, Commercial is one of the premier beverage distributors of Western Massachusetts. The Plasek family and the staff of Commercial Distributing wishes you good times throughout the year and urges you to drink responsibly.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
He rules the roost on Thursday from 6 till 10. It's Patrick Berry,
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Live around the world.
You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show on WSKB 89.5 FM Westfield.
Here's your host, the owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Berry.
Good morning again, everybody. 7:50 a.m. This is the Westfield News Radio Show live at the Tiger's Pride restaurant down at Westfield Technical Academy. Mark Cressati's been my guest this morning. It is, as I said, 7:50 in the morning. Come on, where's the old phone with the weather? Still 28 degrees. I really shouldn't. Nothing's changed. It's 28 degrees clear out there. The wind will make it feel a bit cooler than that, only getting up to 41 today. The weekend looks like snow tomorrow, 70% chance of snow tomorrow, virtually no accumulation. And Saturday, cloudy and 40 degrees. Sunday, partly sunny and 43. Monday, partly sunny and 47. So we're in a little bit, and each night the lows are in the mid to low 20s. So a little bit of a cold stretch that we're in now. So, Mark, let me ask you, I know this is kind of a pie-in-the-sky question, but there's a lot of things from an engineering standpoint that need to get done in Westfield. And the biggest holdup is money. I mean, quite frankly, you know, that's the holdup. I mean, we all want better roads to be, but those things cost money. So how do you balance that? I mean, is it a working relationship with you and the DPW and all the city councilors and the mayor to try and figure out, you know, okay, what's best? You know, how do we attack a certain roadway, you know, or how do we address this particular roadway over that particular roadway? How do you do that? I mean, that can't be easy.
Pat, thanks.
The elephant in the room.
I know, but you know, and I say that because Westfield. People will complain about anything in Westfield, and one of the ongoing themes in Westfield is, you know, it costs money to live here. It's getting more and more expensive to live here. However, you got to look at it and you say, you're right. I mean, but you know, we talked about it earlier. 200 plus miles of roadway in Westfield, and there's a handful of them that are in good shape. You know, so and you get $1,200,000 a year to address it. You can't stay ahead of it.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, so the big elephant in the room, the shortfall here is there's not enough money, and there's no. To my knowledge, there's no department out there, there's no element of the city that's overly affluent or excessive funds. Everybody's dealing with shortfalls. Everybody's trying to
do more
to make
with less,
things work, and more with less.
Yeah.
And roads, I mean, here we are. I mean, it's not an easy deal. That's why we're sitting where it hasn't been addressed. It hasn't. It's been put off and put off. And bottom line, you need more resources. Where's it going to come from?
Right.
It's a mayor and city council conundrum. DPW and engineering support and try to identify, here's the need. I mean, you want it, here's where it's got to go. Engineering, fortunately or unfortunately, we're in a position to appreciate that it's not just a matter of a smooth running road. It's the appreciation of the whole corridor, the experience of running a road. I mean, you want this city to be recommended to the next generation.
Right.
And so you can't just stop at, okay, it works good. You've got to make it be appreciated as this is really good.
You know, one of the ways I think that the city has been smart in setting themselves up for the future is, quite frankly, it's the rail trail. You know, I think I have made no bones about it. I'm a huge proponent of the rail trail. I think it's a great addition to Westfield, and I'm thinking of it from a long-term strategic reason because once that central section of the rail trail gets completed, more people will be on it, and more people will then filter off the rail trail to businesses that are, you know, somewhat in close proximity to the rail trail, which means more businesses will be successful, more businesses will come to town, property values of those buildings will go up, and in turn the city will reap the benefits of those property taxes going up. Am I off the mark on that?
I think you're spot on. I mean, I think that's the goal. That's what we're seeing occurring. I just heard the other day that most of the storefronts in downtown Westfield are occupied, and yet in the strip malls up on East Main Street, there's several vacancies.
Yeah.
I believe it's working downtown. I think we're getting there. It does take time. There's an incubation period. People coming to appreciate the work that's been done. We've got to keep the momentum going.
You know, it's interesting. A couple of weeks ago, I was down in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and I had never been to Bethlehem before, and on my way there, in my mind, I had this image of a very depressed community, just because I know Bethlehem Steel went away, I don't know how many, 20, 30 years ago. I had this image of just depressed, run down, and I have to tell you, I'm going to call it Old Town Bethlehem, their main street, was phenomenal. It was unbelievable. And as I was walking around there with a buddy of mine, I observed to him, I said, look around, not one chain business, restaurant, there wasn't even a CVS down there. Everything was a mom and pop owned business, and every storefront was full. It was amazing. And also in Bethlehem was a Sands casino. So I just happened to be talking to one of the locals, and he said the casino was the game changer for the whole area. It brought in a lot of people, a lot of business, and a lot of jobs, and that turned these. Granted, the casino's the draw, but people go other places too. So the downtown Bethlehem, the old Bethlehem Steel plant is now a museum, and so it was interesting to see how Bethlehem had changed, and I feel confident that, granted, Westfield doesn't have an old Bethlehem Steel plant, but we got a whip factory, that hopefully someday will be a good museum. We got the Children's Museum. You got other draws downtown that I'm hoping the rail trail will eventually, create downtown Westfield to be a destination where you got, again, you look at downtown, you got CVS down there. That's really the only, Walgreens. I'm trying to think of the chain places downtown. Yeah, that's really about it. Then you've got, you said all the storefronts are full, and hopefully that'll evolve once the downtown redevelopment goes in on Elm Street. So, the hope is down the road, the property values will go up,
Yep.
And some of these road projects and some of these other infrastructure projects will take care of themselves.
Yeah.
We've only got a couple minutes left, Mark. What are we missing? What didn't we touch on, or is there, maybe we touched on everything? I don't know. Anything that your office is working on that is of exciting news?
Well, thank you, Pat. I think we covered an awful lot of stuff. Again, I think where we step off into the future, it's very much funding centric, but we need to start setting the course for the next decade plus. I think the city's moving forward with a lot of technology and trying to set ourselves up. So even in my office with our geographic information system, I think we'll be looking to do more and more with that service to the city.
And I want to interrupt you there.
Yep.
I love that website,
Okay.
the GIS. It is such a wealth of information. If for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, cityofwestfield.org, navigate to the engineering department, and once you're on their page, you'll see GIS system. Click on that. There's just so much information. There's underground streams. There's property line delineation. It's amazing. I applaud you and your group for doing that. But it is such a great system for us in the news business. But as a general citizen, to go on there, you have questions about your property, your neighbor's property, any property in Westfield, you can look at it. And as I said, where I am on School Street, I can go in and look at, where's that? Everybody talks about an underground stream down in downtown Westfield. Sure enough, it shows it.
We've had the historians on the show tell you where it used to go.
It's really, you can see where all the water lines are, the sewer lines. It's an amazing resource. I don't know how long that took to develop, but God bless you, that thing's fantastic.
Thank you.
So it is 7:59. Pete, are the guys from the Tech Academy coming in or not? Usually they're here on this time.
I think so.
All right, we may have to play 2 songs, but I need to run and put today's paper together. Mark, I want to thank you very, very much for coming on the show and joining me this morning.
Thank you, Pat.
As I mentioned, next week, City Councilor Matt Emershai is coming on. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things. Matt's a new City Councilor, so we're going to find out how he's doing the first few months.
Absolutely.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for giving me 2 hours of your time. I will see you on the radio live from the Tigers Pride next Thursday morning.